Hello, everyone. My name is Fluffy, and today my buddy Lurtsh and I have just walked out of the Worldwide Developer Conference 2022 that Apple has put on, and it's a week full of events, but the open keynote has just dropped, giving us previews of iOS 16, iPadOS 16, macOS Ventura, and others of the type. And we are here to break down some of the announcements from one of the biggest players in the technology industry. Lurtsh, is there anything that stands out to you from the keynote, or is there anything that you want to say right off the bat?
I believe that walk out of the presentation was pretty strong phrase. We didn't get invited. We watched it online, but you know.
Okay, all right, fair enough. We watched it online, but Apple, for the first time,
one day we will be invited, and the most excited I believe, is about the new iOS 16 and the new macOS Ventura.
Absolutely.
Those are the two biggest things for me in this presentation.
Right. And we're going to talk about how it affects, not only features within the Apple ecosystem, but in others as well. And so for the first time since COVID, Apple has actually invited folks outside to their campus with all their digital developer lounges and things like that. And we can talk about that later as well. But first, let's cover our background. This is going to be uploaded on the Fluffy Tries to Play channel, which is being rebranded to Fluffy OS. My background in technology is that I have been an Android Windows person for a long time, and I have moved over to Mac and Apple, and I use a hybrid of the two in my life. So I believe that even though I'm excited for Apple products, I have a level-handed and fair opinion of the technology that we're going to be seeing today. So what's your background, Lurtsh?
Well, my background in technology is that I've been associated with computers from a very young age. I believe I learned how to launch a PC when I was 2.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, right now I'm a computer science student here in Germany.
Yes. And so,
an avid programmer, you could say it.
Mm-hmm, yep. Lurtsh and I's background at the moment are we have backgrounds in computer science, and so and not necessarily that contributes to anything, but as a developer conference, which I have developed apps that definitely contributes, and so are we ready to hop into this thing?
Sure,
All right.
Absolutely. I have no experience with Apple whatsoever, so this was actually my first Apple live event that I've watched, and I'm quite excited, TBH.
Nice. Okay, so
let's hop in.
Let's do it. So we're starting here at the Apple website. This is the iOS 16 preview, and we can see all of these iPhones here. Basically, all these screenshots are highlighting some of the things from the event. So personal is powerful. iOS 16 enhances iPhone with all new personalization features, deeper intelligence, and a seamless way to communicate and share. So the first things first, they have updated the lock screen, so which means that the lock screen is getting updates. Of course, there's new time, there's new fonts, there's new ways to customize it, and you have a new rolling notification method. And so previously, in previous versions of iOS, the wallpaper it kind of, like you could take 10 pictures and maybe one of them would work as a wallpaper, because it had to be a very, very special, the background couldn't be too busy on the top, but then you could put stuff in the foreground. This here, I think, will give us a lot more flexibility using more pictures and more things, and really has just jumped on the personalization bandwagon that started with Android 12. So yeah, what do you think of the lock screen? I think this is pretty much the biggest visual change about the iPhone. I know you've never used iPhone before, but does this remind you of anything? Or
honestly, not that much. I don't use personally the lock screen on my phone, and I have an Android. I believe it's Android 12 something, maybe. I'm not sure right now, but yeah, I'm actually curious as to how productive this can be, because when you can customize it to your needs, and from the presentation they've mentioned that you can customize it for different times of day, actually, like for morning, for work, for evening. My pronunciation, sorry. Anyway, I'm actually, yeah, as I said, very curious to see how this can be used to uh, raise the personal productivity.
Absolutely. And so there's a personalization component to it, which is there's actually widgets on home screen now. And so Apple widgets are really cool because these complications they come directly from the widget interface on iOS, and also part of it comes from, you can see the rings here, from Apple Watch. And so I look at my Apple Watch and widgets all the time just for on the glance information, and having that on the lock screen will just allow me to look at the lock screen and not have to go in to check, if it's raining, or check if my rings are done, or just, check all the sorts of stuff that is like front and center. So that definitely will help me out in terms of personal usage. Now, the thing is that you talk about productivity.
Yes.
The thing is that in terms of productivity, the widgets and the new rolling notifications that I'm sure we're going to get into here in a little bit is pretty much going to be the deciding factor whenever it comes to whether or not, these lock screens. So of course you have widgets, and then you can create multiple lock screens, which the lock screens, what they said that they would do is that the lock screens would coincide with the focus modes. Which, if you look at, focus modes here, it's basically you can turn on different types of do not disturbs. So it's like a classification of do not disturb. And I use like 4 or 5 do not disturb or focus modes on the daily. So that means that I can like have a different one for work, have a different one for lecture, have a different one for, let's say, when I go to church. And I think that if you are willing to sit down and put the time to customize in, that can be super useful. So,
True. Absolutely. And for someone who uses the phone primarily for messaging and maybe Googling sometimes, but no gaming, no fancy stuff, I can really appreciate it when I can customize it to set up on the do not disturb mode when I'm at work, or let's say push all the messages onto the lock screen when I need to read them without actually reading them. When I leave someone on read, zum Beispiel. I've lived in Germany for half a year, and it's been haunting me actually for quite some time now, that I suddenly use like German words and phrases when I speak English, and it even affects my grammar, I must say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that is what I think of the new lock screen feature.
Okay.
Ironically, pediatrician appointment for J.J. Abrams, I believe.
Yeah. He said he's a real doctor now. No, okay, so take a look at this. This notification section is really interesting because before, when you have an iPhone, you couldn't really see your picture. Like, all your notifications would block it up. But now the notifications start at the bottom and scroll all the way up, so you can appreciate your wallpaper, I guess, more. But you can just like have it pop out now, which I think that's a cool thing. And you can have live activities. So like if you're keeping up with a sports game or something of the sort, I think that's really cool, especially for this lock screen. So I know that I call them Apple normies, which I probably shouldn't, but I know I know that that the regular people who use iPhones who aren't into technology and don't know what all this fancy stuff is.
Well, that's another point of Apple. They're very user friendly.
Yes. And then after this, I'm downloading iOS 16 right now, and so once that finishes, and we're gonna have a look at these features live, and we can kick around and see which ones is interesting. All right, focus mode. So a new update to focus mode is that there are new link focuses. So whenever you have your home page, you can have different home pages and different lock screens for focus modes, right? And then you can have focus filters, which basically takes different content out and serves you different content based on filter focusing. And so, or focus filtering. And so I think that overall, this kind of optimization to focus mode, which was hugely popular in iOS 15 last year, is going to be extremely useful. And so I don't want to dwell on this too much longer. There is a lot of content to cover. So let's go ahead and move on to photos. I think, Lurtsh, you had some things to say about the photos, the iCloud shared library photo. I know that my mother and grandmother will probably love to use this to share among 5 people. Do you have any other comments about this?
Absolutely. Like family members who live in different places, they obviously want to keep in touch with each other. And yeah, sharing photos automatically without having to manually upload them via a messenger or something is a really cool feature, because it allows all family members to stay up to date with what's happening in someone else's life.
My worry is that my worry whenever they first showed this feature was that what if there are pictures that you don't want? Like, for example, like you're in a family and you and your brother go out somewhere where, questionably you're not supposed to. And then all of a sudden, you take pictures at the party, at the frat party, and it pulls up on your family photo. How does that, what happens then? But I'm comforted by the fact that there are edits and changes and syncing, but you have pretty much granular control over which photos automatically come into that. And as iOS updates progress, I kind of sense a theme of how is it that we can share automatically with our loved ones and the people that we care about without having to put in much effort, right? So
I hear your point, and I definitely wouldn't want my mom to know what I'm doing at frat parties. That's like 100%. Thing is, when you're intoxicated, anything can happen.
I went to a couple parties, but I never got drunk. So I didn't have to worry about that. So messages. So now messaging is enhanced. I actually missed this part of the keynote because I was trying to set up, but now you can, for example, mark messages on red, first of all, you can edit a message, which is so cool. And you can also unsend a message, mark it on red. These are just basic features that have been on WhatsApp and regular messaging apps for years. And finally, glad it's coming to iMessage, so appreciate that. And more collaboration and share play via messages. Honestly, iMessage is huge in the United States, and all of these compounding features is going to make it harder and harder for people to leave the Apple ecosystem as time goes on.
That's what addiction does to you, baby. Unfortunately, the iMessage is not a thing outside the US. Well, I think Canada, I don't know, Australia, maybe the UK, like the English-speaking countries. So I don't see it that much here in Germany. As such, I don't know how huge of an impact it will have here. But yeah, the point is, the products are mainly designed for the US. It's the target audience of the company.
And I'm glad you're here.
Understandable.
I'm glad you're here for that perspective, because you live outside the U.S. and because I'm these features are great, and then every time you mention it's in the U.S., the pricing's in the U.S. Oh, only people in the U.S. use that, and that's something to consider, especially when you're outside.
When a family uses all Apple devices, they will obviously use iMessage as well, but normally that's not a thing. Anyway. When they talked about editing messages, I felt like they were kind of making fun of Twitter.
Okay, all right, I missed that, but yeah, okay, apparently in the keynote they were making fun of Twitter. Okay, look, this makes iMessage the first messaging platform that I believe that you can both edit a message and have read receipts. I noticed that for some reason, one platform has one but doesn't have the other. For example, Discord, you can edit messages, but there are no read receipts, which means that you can't see when other people have read your messages. And on...
untrue.
Really?
Telegram, yes.
Telegram.
Telegram, yes. It has both read receipts and edits. It's not that popular in the US, its main audience is in Russia, actually.
Okay.
But still, Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right. Very nice. So let's move in to Mail. I'm going to skip over this because I use MimeStream on Mac, which is my own deal. But improved search, undo, schedule, send, all of this stuff is really great because Gmail has had these features for years, and finally Apple is getting caught up on the game. And honestly, there's so much more that Apple can do that, for the time being, if as far as companies goes, this is maybe great for personal use, but as far as company goes, just having either Outlook or Gmail, if you can access their APIs into a native Mac app, into another native Mac app, that's just like 10 times easier to use. And that's just a personal preference for me. I don't know if you would agree or disagree or pretty indifferent about that. I'm not sure, but
I'm pretty indifferent because I mainly use Gmail either on my browser, like on my PC, or on my phone in the app.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay, so Safari and passkeys. So I wanted to talk briefly about this. So passkeys, it says that introduce a more secure way to log in. And so essentially what this is it's a sign-in method that is end-to-end encrypted and is safe from phishing and data leaks. For example, when you send your information or passwords to a website, you have to memorize your password, right? But what happens when, for example, somebody hacks into the password database and gets all of your information, or you insert your information into a website that looks like the real website but not? But what Apple has done is basically created a identifier. So it's a common two-factor identification. So you usually do it with your Face ID or your you scan it with your fingerprint, and it will just acknowledge you as a user and then send the. I'm not sure 100% how it works yet, but from a cybersecurity standpoint, and I wish Nuke were here to help with that, but it will just send an identifier token to the service and tell you that you've logged in. And the great thing about that is that it's seamless, and supposedly it's more secure because it fights against phishing and database leaks. The thing is that this is one more step towards the ultimate Apple goal of like True ID or Self ID, which is basically a system where instead of having active authentication, which means fingerprint or passcode or Face ID, it basically is always scanning for those things, and it has a trust tolerance. And once you fall out of those trust tolerances, for example, if it senses somebody else is near, or it holds the phone differently, or it senses someone's face is there, or it senses someone's fingerprint is there, once it falls below the trust tolerances, it basically locks your phone and challenges you with a password. And so with trust tolerances, you never have to have login actively. And I think passkeys is one more step towards that bio authentication, like background passive activation. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I know with Apple, in terms of security, I probably trust them the most. If trust is a valid term for that, I probably trust them the most with the with online security. So, and then another thing about
I
type
agree
groups.
with you on that one. I also wish Nuke was here to explain it more in depth. Yeah. In my opinion, it's never a good thing to give too much information about yourself to a company, like no matter how trustworthy and secure it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like putting all eggs in the same basket,
Right.
Not a great idea.
So
however, I can agree with the idea of such passkeys as basically a password manager.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of tedious when you have to use a manual password manager and you have to open it up every time, like search for the right entry, then copy the password, whatever, or use it in your browser where it can get stolen with the cookies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. In and of itself, is a great idea.
Yeah.
The problem is, as I said, too much information is available to Apple already.
Yeah.
And we're doing it even more.
Okay, so let's move on to, and of course you have shared tab groups, which in the theme of iOS being more being more interconnected within your context, you can have these tab groups. So tab groups you can already have in Safari. And so, you'll have tab groups of certain things moving on. But anyway, you can share them with your friends, which is nice for planning vacations or whatnot. And increased intelligence on iPhone. And so the traditional challenge for iPhone is that intelligence has always been done on device, which means that you can't rely on a data server or algorithms in the cloud in order to power your intelligent features. For example, Google and other like Amazon and Facebook send all of their AI stuff into the cloud because they have huge data centers and huge machine learning models that will give you a really good experience, but only because they have that power and hardware to back it up. Problem is, when you send the information to the clouds, it's sending it to the first-party service. Where with Apple, it's all done on device. So which means that all of the calculations, all of the machine learning models and stuff is done in your device. It's never sent outside, and Apple can't even look at it because your phone supposedly is an encrypted device. And so you can do things like mask someone out and put it into photos. I think this dog is kind of a silly example, but it's more things. And live text for videos. If we get live text for videos on YouTube, I think that would be extremely, extremely good. And then Siri's getting smarter. Live text is getting smarter, especially with this conversion situation. And so overall, I think intelligence in iOS 16 is going to knock it out of the park. What do you think about the on-device security and AI, artificial intelligence portion of the keynote?
Well, I think it's a really huge deal. In my opinion, this is probably like the most exciting feature for me because I've honestly been waiting for this kind of like artificial intelligence in smartphones for years. Well, you can even say this is kind of magic, and it can be very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Times when you have to like select text from a photo to translate it. Was weiß ich? German, yes. Like this, or to convert prices. Well, prices 1.50 pounds. Yeah,
pounds. To...
it's like wasn't $2, I think.
Yeah, it's 1.85.
1.85. Yeah.
But look, the thing is that
still not the rate.
Yeah, the issue is that in my photos, I can already select text. So live text is already there, and I use live text almost on a weekly basis. It's just that these features are becoming more intelligent, especially with the Siri shortcut. And if we had more time, I would talk to you all about shortcuts and automation. But running shortcuts with an apps,
I can tell how excited you are about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just glad that it's year-over-year improvement, and there's nothing too special that stood out. But live text for video, I hope YouTube gets it, and maybe even like Netflix or Disney Plus or something like that.
So to sum it up, in iOS 16, these features they become more intelligent, specifically in regard to like masking something. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is implied, at least, I think. Because live text, as you said, is already available. And the question for me, how powerful are these tools actually? Because as you've mentioned, Google uses entire data centers and clouds to process this stuff, whereas Apple does it on people's own devices.
Yes.
You can tell that the computational capabilities of these things are different.
Mm-hmm.
So how good is this intelligence with regard to speed and, well, I don't know, quality, I would say?
It helps that Apple has the most powerful system on chips, powerful processors.
Fair enough.
And in terms of AI. But I think it'll be fast, and I think that this is not too much of a stretch considering the amount of power that we have to run on. So,
well, yeah, selecting text is not, but for instance, masking something or someone, it's also not a problem, I guess. But you haven't tried it yet because it's not yet available on iOS 15, which you're still on, right?
Yeah, I'm updating right now, but
well,
I'm going to here in a second. Okay. So
Sure.
dictation. So let's go ahead and move on to some of the. So dictation, I use dictation all the time, and I'm glad that the keyboard and dictation are going to be available at the same time. That's going to be able to help me text messages out quite really fast, like much faster. If someone is late on rent, or when I'm driving is pretty much the number one time I use dictation. I say it, and it's going to automatically punctuate, and there's a lot of exciting things coming with dictation. So that and then maps. Also, I use maps every day as well. You can add multiple stops along your route, which I think this was previously a thing before, but it's going to be more intuitive in this update. And along with transit cards and fares, Apple Pay is getting also a really big update. Now, Lurtsh, we kind of discussed about this. Apple Pay later.
Yes.
Can you explain how this works?
So it's a kind of an extension to Apple Pay, which will be available with Apple Pay, actually, wherever Apple Pay is accepted, which allows you to pay for your purchases in 4 equal payments that happen over 2 weeks each. So essentially, you'll be done with buying something in 6 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
yeah, it is a cool feature, as it allows you to plan your budget better without having to spend like a lump sum on something that you really want, but instead allows you to split the payment into equal parts and maybe pay for part of it now and then pay the rest when you get paid from your day-to-day job. I would like to have more flexibility with it, like not necessarily 4 equal payments, but maybe like 2 equal payments or 3 equal payments within a specific time period. Well, 6 weeks seems reasonable enough, but why like 4 fixed payments?
Right. Look, I will never pay for things in payments other than a house and a car. Okay, but look, I love American capitalism and consumerism. All right, I will be transparent about that. And one of the things that makes the American economy like absolutely massive, and this is one of the things that people don't bank on, is that we spend money. Like we buy a whole bunch of stuff in order to fulfill our life's whims, and that's what stimulates the economy.
I mean, because that's the point of capitalism, right?
You can have all of the setup capitalism businesses you want, but if people are just saving money and they can't break the poverty line and they are not spending their money on things that other than what they need, then like there's no economy, even if it's set up the exact same way. And so I think this will drive consumerism and capitalism, but I think it's awful for people who get into debt and want to pay in pieces. So I wonder what happens if you can't pay. I wonder if that's really a big risk for Apple in this case. I'm wondering if that's something that we got to consider. But let's go ahead and move on. So, of course, more keys. So Apple Wallet's entire mantra is like, we're going to replace your real wallet. So hotel keys. So it looks like you can send your hotel keys to your friends. Interesting, huh? So let's say that you're staying in a hotel and you want them to come up, just send them the key and they can walk in. Also, there's more IDs coming to other states and verify identification. And it also gives you that, hey, you're over 21. There's an option to say, hey, I'm over 21 without necessarily sharing your birthday. The Home app is getting huge updates. And this could be a whole video in itself, but I'm going to try to kind of skim over this because Home is really not applicable to many people, especially if you don't have your own home and you don't have home automations and things like that. Let's just suffice it to say that I hope it's going to be much better this year, especially with automation, multi-camera view, and this Matter support, which is basically a foundation that Apple built with HomeKit in order to the whole point is that all of the smart home devices that hundreds of manufacturers make will finally be unified under one platform. So
Nice, but
Yep.
again, it's not really applicable to the people outside the United States.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Health and fitness are getting updates as well. There's new medication tracking, which I think is pretty neat. And especially when I prescribe medicine, just to make sure that, hey, if you need to take this certain medication 3 or 4 times a day, or things like that. Sometimes it's just a straight up issue with forgetting. And I hope there are notification problems with that. But other times, they just don't want to take it. So anyway, fitness app for iPhone. Everybody's getting a fitness app regardless of whether you're getting the Apple Watch or not. And it looks like that this Move activity. So if you don't have an Apple Watch, you just have a Move goal. And so I think that's pretty cool. Again, more with family sharing.
That is actually pretty useful.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. So family sharing here, more options for the kids, more granular control. I think this is the biggest update for parental controls since iOS 12. So that means that there will be more control over how you share your devices and how you take into account what you all of the information and things that coming out of the device. So moving on, you can set up new devices for child family checklists. Again, these are the small little things that Apple puts thought into that maybe you look at it as a young guy or girl and say, I have no use for this. But trust me, the families that earn enough money to buy Apple devices will use this and will appreciate how easy it is to set up. And they'll definitely, if this is implemented well, they'll definitely notice. So,
well, maybe one day I'll appreciate it too, and maybe one day you will appreciate it too.
Hope so. This is CarPlay. Hey, what do you think?
Oh yeah, you've been very excited about it. Like,
I think that it's just a cool interface, man. I think my next car I want the CarPlay features, like all the smart features, because it's integrated. It's like it replaces your dashboard. And the only thing I hate about it is the fact that I have to give up my buttons in order to do it. Like my tactile buttons, I want them there. So we're gonna skip this for now because mostly this isn't coming till late next year. So moving on to privacy and security. There's something called a safety check, which means that you can now revoke access to people. For example, if you're in a domestic or intimate partner violence situation. I think this is really nice because now that's a huge problem for relationship safety and stuff like that. It's just one less tool, or it's one more tool that will allow you to take privacy over your own data so that other people can't take advantage of you. So. Okay, let's move on down to accessibility. There's stuff like door detection, live captions, which I think is pretty cool. But this actually here and buddy controller. Actually, all of these accessibility features was implemented within the last 0.1 iOS 15 update. So we're going to skip that. And a whole lot more. Blah, blah, blah. The Translate is getting a camera app, no new emoji, quick note from iPhone, handoff during FaceTime, which is a macOS feature. Spotlight is getting a few things, but I kind of want to show this inside of our demo. So it looks like they finally dropped support for the first generation iPhone SE. Wow. They've been supporting that since iOS 15, and they finally dropped it. Incredible. And it looks like they dropped support for all iPhone 6s too. Wow.
7.
Yeah, and 7. Wow. Okay, well, I guess I did not expect that. All right, so let's move on to macOS. So macOS Ventura, which is iOS 13 or 14-ish. First of all, I love this orange color scheme. Work smarter, play harder goes further. So basically, macOS, for the past couple of years, the main highlights is that all of the features coming to iOS is being implemented into macOS. That is just pretty much the Apple ecosystem at work. So if you are at, all the new mail features are coming into iOS. Spotlight is getting revamped. So Spotlight is a Mac tool that allows you to pretty much search, get to things faster than you already have. And now it's taking up the whole pane where previously. So here, let me show you if I can So here's previous Spotlight. And if I type in a name, right? So it doesn't, well, actually, I think it does. Okay, so you see how whenever I swipe through it, okay, I gotta throw that out. Anyway, whenever I swipe through, it takes up half the pane. Now it's gonna allow you to, for example, take up this whole pane here so that there's just more use of space. And hopefully it's faster. I find that, so this is Alfred. This is what I use for, that's what I use for a Spotlight replacement. It's much faster than Spotlight, but hopefully I want to use Spotlight. I use Spotlight on iPad and iPhone all the time, but on the Mac, it's a little bit of a different story. So,
but yeah, Alfred is not a native app.
Yeah, Alfred is a native app. It's a native Mac app, but it's not a built-in app. Yes, correct.
Oh, I see.
Yep. If Spotlight has more native integration, and one thing that I like to use is spell. So give me a really hard word to spell.
Uh-oh.
Let's
Tumultuous.
Voluptuous. Okay.
Tumultuous, yeah.
Voluptuous. Okay, so obviously I butchered that spelling, but here...
Yeah, there's a U.
There it is.
After
Or
the T.
One that I often have spelling is that spell indefinitely.
Oh, for sure.
Indefinitely. And I can absolutely butcher the spelling, but it'll still give me like, and then press it, and then it's like onto my clipboard.
It's like definite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the check.
Passkeys is here. Messages is here, and I'm excited. Oh yeah. Okay, what do you think of this here?
I think it's cool because sometimes when you're on your phone, but then you kind of need to start working on the PC and stuff. There's switch with the continuity, and it's really comfortable, in my opinion. Well, from the way it looks, as you just do it with the simple button click.
Yeah, absolutely.
The question is, how much will it cost?
Well, it's free. Or the button clip.
No.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
You could probably buy it online for like $5 or something like that. I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
You can use Center Stage, which uses the ultra wide camera. So your iPhone essentially turns into your camera with a peer-to-peer connection. And there's studio light options and desk view. Desk view uses your ultra wide camera in order to see like what's on your desk. I think this is cool. I can't wait to try this.
That, as I said in the live stream, it looked unrealistic, but yes, it is really cool. Especially maybe like university professors will be able to use it for live streaming as they like to walk back and forth while explaining stuff.
Yes.
You know.
My brother's a teacher, and whenever he's doing lectures like and tutoring, I know he'll love this because he loves to use regular pen and paper. He doesn't have an iPad or anything like that. He can show all his formulas to his students and stuff like this right on here. It's going to be really good.
Yep, it's great.
Game sensors. Freeform is an app coming later this year that basically allows you to move out. It's like a huge infinite whiteboard that allows you to put down all your projects. I'm personally going to be using this for team brainstorming and stuff like that. Personally, I apologize for skipping over the games, but the games don't really matter to me because there's no Vulkan API, there's no DirectX supports, which means that we're going to be stuck on the same mobile games and the same M1 optimized games over and over, and you can't tap into the basically the whole library of games that Steam offers on DirectX or Vulkan. So I'm just doing
Fluffy has been just trying to avoid this rant section, but I guess it didn't work.
System settings is getting a new redesign. So this is what system settings looks like right now. And this is what the new one will look like. It looks like a much more sophisticated, like on the side. So this one's kind of confusing, right? In my opinion.
Can't you customize it? Like set it to have a menu on the left? Like, can't you do it right now?
No, you can't. This is locked in place. It's basically, this is supposed to make it feel more familiar to iPhone and iPad users.
Oh yeah.
But like, for example, Wi-Fi. Show me which button you would press for Wi-Fi on this one right here.
Network. Probably.
Okay. Now tell me which one you would pick to, for example, for your passwords.
Profiles, maybe password. There's a password.
See, that's the issue. It's so difficult to search around. Like, and displays is over here. It's just
yes, but
yeah.
Keep in mind that it's the first time I've seen this menu, like in my life.
Well, even for me, it's difficult after years of using it. I don't know, man.
Oh,
yeah, it's
no,
that
but
bad.
I see the icons do have the same color scheme.
Yes.
In your menu, yeah, and that is pretty confusing.
So
this looks much more noticeable.
Yes. So all the privacy and security stuff is coming back on, as well as the accessibility for macOS, which we will explore.
Yeah, this person has been very interested, and I'm like, no, my phone is my personal device, and no, I'm not letting you get into it. No way. It's like, not until I purge it, at least, and reset the factory settings.
Yes.
Then, fine. You can look through what's left.
All right, so the iPad, which I'm only going to go over the features that I find personally interesting. So the switch between apps. So this is what's called Stage Manager, and this is coming to Mac as well. But basically, it's just another way for multitasking and just grouping windows together that will work together. And you can create your ideal workspace, and you can finally have a multi-window workflow that isn't static on iPad. And that was one of the complaints before, is because you can only put like 3-4 full-size screens, but this is a way that allows you to work with multiple windows at a time. And here's the thing. Previously, people have complained all the time that they can't have multitasking. And they want window multitasking like this on iPad that is like on Mac. But the issue is that Mac is not like iPad. It's a touch-first mobile device. And I love how Apple has innovated that bridge in between the touch-first iPhone and the mouse keyboard-first Mac. For example, whenever you have a trackpad on Mac, you don't have a cursor like you do on Mac. You have a little dot that moves around and it snaps to the touch-first interfaces. So it takes advantage of that interface. And this is just another way for multi-window support that is yes, available on Mac, but is the primary way of multi-managing as opposed to Spotlight. And so I appreciate that. That's just my little tirade for Mac. And new display modes for reference modes. This is huge. I'm a huge color guy. And if I had the iPad Pro 12.9 inch for HDR and SDR formats, I would really appreciate that, so that you can use this as a standalone device for referencing as sidecar, and you can change the resolution of the display to fit more. Display scaling is really important in Mac because, like in Windows, you can fit more content information on the screen. And and that's basically just it. More text and photos on a screen is why I think this display mode scaling, now that my eyes haven't failed me. Finally, weather on iPad. People have been asking for this for ages. They've made a beautiful weather app on the iPad. I don't know why it was there. Calculator's next. Did you know there's not a calculator app on the iPad? It's
really?
There's not. But look at this beautiful maps. Up to date minutes. And we'll be able to see that when iPad OS comes out. More games. Again, don't talk to me. Same intelligence features that are coming in. And let me see if there are anything else. Yep, and everything else is related. So one of the beautiful things is that one feature of the Apple ecosystem pretty much delegates to every one of them. That's just how it works. And then there are a couple nice features that are platform specific. And then finally, we have watchOS 9, which I'm just going to go over as a formality because really I'm not big into watchOS. I think it does its job fine. It has new workout parameters.
We could invite Loco to talk about the watch.
Who? Loco? Yeah?
Loco, yeah.
Does he use it?
I don't know, but he's a huge watch guy, so
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he pretty much made me become a watch guy. That's kind of how he recommended to me my first watches. This is the sleep metric. By judging by these numbers, I clearly sleep way too little. But I use sleep all the time, and it's just nice that some of my undergraduate research was on rapid eye movement, and so seeing this kind of information and data available to the user to better understand your sleep, then I think it really is helpful. Anyway, this is called a hypnogram, and it just shows you different stages of where you are in your sleep. And if you're closer to your sleep, so you can see how it goes in cycles, right? It goes up, down, up, down. And if you are slowly coming up to your awake state, then you theoretically have a more peaceful sleep, as opposed to when you're in deep sleep. And deep sleep allows you to have the best type of sleep, right? Which means that your body's recovering the fastest. But if you cut that short, you're going to get really ajar from being awake. So yes, I'm really excited for the sleep features. Now the watch faces
such an app, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not buying an Apple Watch just for that.
Absolutely not. I would highly recommend against if you were to do that. We were in a voice call with another gentleman during WWDC, and he made a good point. Like, I really don't like the watch faces on the and this
Apple wants money.
Yeah.
Was his point, I guess.
Maybe this is cool, but the fact that Apple shot themselves in the foot with the original Apple Watch by making it a square really limits the amount of beautiful watch faces that you can make, in my opinion. So, AFib history is really important for those with heart conditions, but I won't speak to that very much because I don't have any heart conditions yet. I try to keep my heart healthy and go on runs and stuff. So, okay, so that is pretty much everything. And the last thing we have to go over, and
is the new Mac Air.
Yes,
I guess.
MacBook Air. Yes, sir. So that's the original MacBook Air, which is $1,000. And now for $1,200, there is an M2 MacBook Air. Ooh, all new design, and it looks exactly like it. A lot of the portions look like my Mac Pro. It's got a new notch with all-day battery life, new cameras, new speakers and mics, a new screen, pretty much new everything. It looks beautiful. It basically looks like a Mac Pro shrank, and this midnight finish is gorgeous in my opinion. But if I were to get it, I would get it in the Starlight color.
Why?
Because Starlight is like kind of an interesting combination between a gold and silver, and I think it just looks stunning in person. The pictures really don't do it justice. And finally, the MagSafe ports are color matched. So this one's in space gray, and this one is in silver.
Personally, I don't know. Well, I haven't seen a Starlight Mac in person, as you said, but I would personally get either the traditional iconic silver or the midnight, because it's absolutely fantastic.
It looks stunning. Yeah. So M2 is it's CPU, and so there's a lot we could say about that, and we can get into performance metrics. We can get into what the AI acceleration. We can get into the ProRes decoding blocks, all the stuff that we can talk about all day long, if you really gave me into. And again, we can talk about memory bandwidth and pretty much all of the benefits that M2 delivers. But let's just suffice it to say, this is going to be a really kick butt machine in order to put in this. Look how thin this is. This is actually just incredible. It's significantly less volume than the previous MacBook Air. Even so, the MacBook Air was already thin as it was.
Well, what was it? 20% less volume, I think?
Something like that, yes. And the new MacBook Pro 13-inch is also getting the new M2. So it's leveling up, getting the new M2. Now, do you know the difference between a MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro 13-inch?
Not really, but I'm assuming the Pro version is more powerful.
Yep, and
that's what kind of the name suggests.
Yeah, the Pro version has a fan and better heat sinks.
Oh.
So, and I believe the Touch Bar is still here. So that's why they're keeping this model around, and it has a tiny bit of a better screen, I believe. But again, there's a billion colors for that new MacBook Air, and so that is what we are working with for the Macs. So if you were to build out, what do you think would be the right Mac for you? Considering, let's just say that you had, you weren't so price constrained. If you had a more comfortable budget, which one do you think would work for you?
For me, either the 14 or the 16-inch version, I would say.
Okay.
Unfortunately, well, it's kind of a big question because since I code, I kind of want to have more space.
Yeah.
For the code.
Absolutely.
So 13-inch, yeah, is kind of too small, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
However, on the M2 chip, I can connect it to a monitor and have little to no problems with it running two monitors, essentially. Or like one big screen.
Yep.
So yeah, in that case, I would probably take the 13-inch M2 version.
Yeah. And there's now a Mac at almost every price point. So
obviously, not the Air.
Yeah.
It's like Air is for more office stuff, I believe.
I mean, these two have the same chips, admittedly, but
yeah.
All right. So that's gonna be the first portion of this segment. And Lurtsh, I'm gonna let you go here for just a little bit. And I think, are you free in half an hour?
Well, actually, I kind of want to go to bed.
Oh, okay, all right. Maybe we will do the iOS 16 demo some other time, because my phone hasn't even restarted yet. It's probably going to take another half hour to do. But I'm going to wish you good night. I'm going to go edit this video, and I appreciate you sticking out with me here and giving me your opinion. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
No worries.
On the stream, even.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah. We'll absolutely do the live demo some other time.
Yep. And I'll have all of my devices updated. Yeah. I'll have all of my devices updated for that. So yeah.
Of course, 100%. I'm all for it. I want to see, especially the iOS 16, since I'm actively considering buying an iPhone, and I want to know what it looks like in person, basically. Okay.
Good deal. All right. Good night, Lurtsh.
Yeah. Good night. Have fun running.
Yeah. Thank you.
3 miles, and definitely use that fitness app, Close the Rings.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ring that bell. Smash that like button.